More references. But in the meantime, hmm, should it be an explanation? Adults. Tried, treated, and mispronounced. No. Besides, that's not a very good computer file name. You can't use an exclamation point. Adults. Leave it like that. Tried, treated, and mispronounced. Oops. What did I just do? Oh, back. Mispronounced. And I need more references. These references are going to kick my tail. Even if I manage to do everything else decently. But it said at least three. Exactly. It said at least three. Least three. I did the bare minimum. That is not an A. When has that ever been an A? Best I could get is a low A. Well, that's assuming everything else is great, which I'm sure it's not. But, neither who, I'm going to upload this. Why? I don't know. Chickening out, I guess. Like I said, it's already too late. Yep, already too late. Either it is already too late or I have plenty of time. But I'm hoping I'll be able to submit it more than once. Yeah, start new submission. Yay. If I put in another one, I'll be like, well, this is the one to actually ignore the other. This is the one to go by. But I assume he would know that the last one is the one. For some reason, that always seems to take forever, but when you press refresh, it clears. I need more references. This thing is way too long. Well, it's long. It's like way long. And it has a minimum amount of references. So, shall I? Well, I know what I shall do. Check. That's what I shall do. Check. See. Can I do another one? Because if I can't, that's not there. There's no point. And I can, so I'm not off the hook. There would have been a degree of relief to that. I would be done, even though I'd be done. But at least now with that little headache off my back, I might feel relaxed. Acknowledgement. We wish to thank. No, that's not a reference subject. More than meets the eye. Taking assessment. Sentencing for juvenile justice. Make that smaller, please. Acknowledgements. American Bar Association Juvenile building upon its work. About the authors. Forward. By who? children sentences were offenses for which they would have been placed in juvenile facilities a few years ago. And then those facing confinement until middle age than ever before in this country's history. Middle age? Wow, I only just got there. Once you keep them there that long, you're probably better off staying there. No, I'm joking. Not really. But they know no other life. Then they take them out of there and throw them on the system, on the outside. And what do you know? Something new happens. Man, if that was me, I think I'd leave the country. You might as well. It's not like you know the country. Assuming they allow you to. You don't know America any more than any other country at that point. May as well have just watched it on TV. When is a child not a child? I wonder if you would have posed that to the people who passed those laws, what on earth would they say? Other than some mindless chant like, when they commit adult crimes. Oh, so can we date them now? I asked you, when is a child not a child? Not when do you react a certain way. It's either true or it's not. Anything that says it both is and isn't true. What's the word? Schizophrenic? I don't know. Some word for it. But it probably is a mental health issue. Professionals have an ethical obligation to help courts. None of that stuff matters with a mandatory sentence. It's meaningless. Of course, it's not meaningless. It's just treated as if it's meaningless. While those uninformed about child development have persuaded themselves that it is reasonable to punish 12, 13, 14, and 15-year-olds as if they were adult criminals, experts must present what is known about cognitive and emotional growth during adolescence. It is not acceptable to complete standard psychological testing on children and allow the results to be misused in the adult criminal process. Experts must inform the court where the child is developmentally, and developmental steps remain as to, we got some weird, dumb laws in this country. It's funny how we change things to suit our bloodthirstiness. A few steps past mob violence, perhaps, when you can do something that extreme and walk away like it's an ordinary day. I think I prefer mob violence to some extent, because at least we all know that's wrong, and we're not stuck with it once we've made the mistake. It happens, it's over, it's done, punish it and move on. But this, it stays. It becomes a standard by which everything is measured. I'm not seeing any wisdom in that. But that's me. Or is it? By all means, give me a response. I don't like those pages where they lock it so that you cannot give a reply. To me, that's just rude. It's like 200,000 views, but the comments are disabled. That's 200,000 or 100,000 or more people who are just told to keep your big trap shut. By one person. It's an A to B conversation. No, not A to B conversation. That's a one-way street conversation, which is not a conversation. But that's me. No, it's not. That really is annoying. Or is it? Oh well. Enough with that. For example, a 13-year-old during his first stay in a secure detention center where he is the youngest resident is administered the MMPI and has scores reflecting anger and paranoia reported in the evaluation. The evaluation further reports that an individual with these scores has an increased likelihood of impulse control and authority problems. The evaluator noticed that similar scores for middle class adolescents, that is something entirely different. Or is it? Not really. Doing so requires skill in listening to adolescents. Oh, you can just forget it. The mob will not do that, and people in the mob mentality will not do that. Why? Because they want to exact, well, they might call it justice. Let's say retribution. You can't do all that and hide behind the fact that you're 14 years old. If you wanted to be treated as a child, you should have stayed in preschool. They might say. It's ridiculous. But it's easy to say a thing like that and seem like it makes sense. It ignores all the impacts of its own actions, calling them all the kid. You might never say that kid. That person, the defendant, or whatever. Let me see. Moral development. I wish I could just listen to this whole thing. I'm looking for a fourth reference. That won't do. I really should have 8, but I'll settle for 5. Even though I now have all the time in the world, I should hurry. Do I have all the time in the world? Maybe. American Association Juvenile Justice System. Okay. Um, Forward by who? It might be worth listening to if I can know who it's by. But they just say forward. Oh, come on. Experts for juveniles at risk of adult sentences. I had one of those psychological tests as soon as I got there. He did all the talking. Maybe if he had listened to me more, he could have found out more about my problems. In the end, it just made me feel crazy. And committed to a secure juvenile facility. How could you do all the talking when you're supposed to be checking them? Anyway, mental health professionals have an ethical obligation. Hmm. Okay, this tells me that. Tells me all that. Like this one needs. In presenting these opinions, too often evaluations are written with the expectation that the reader will interpret them in the context of the particular child's development. For example, a 13-year-old during his first day in a secure detention center where he is the youngest resident is administered the MPI and has. I'm not getting this. Why is this over here and this over here? It looks like they did a. Okay. Education evaluation lawyers visiting children should request specialized expert assistance preparing waiver hearings. Adult criminal proceedings. They're still our youngins. At the time of the offense, so I was to educate others about child development by presenting information sufficient to meet needs. This it looks like a grade references, and that is what has kept me in it for so long. And I'm sure it is, but I'm not looking at it. It is uniquely childlike inability. Yeah, okay. Magical thinking is an uniquely childlike inability to approach situations with an adult decision-making process. The child's wish becomes his her reality. They would thought that he would, oh, okay, here we go. I think I'll look at this one. Several aspects of thinking like a child. Listen to this.
Several aspects of thinking like a child during the offense should be explored in depth by
I'm going to change this here. In case she says it all. Looks like the only problem.
laypersons. All three contribute to the expert's understanding.
Wow. Now this is the first time I've come across one of these where she says it right. Usually it would be expert S understanding. And I would have copied it and put it in here. And you'd use the keyboard, press the one by the enter key. But in this case, it's the same. Surprisingly. Well, anyway.
Several aspects of thinking like a child during the offense should be explored in depth by the evaluator. 1. Magical thinking. 2. Self-protection. And 3. Planning. The child development expert's view of these aspects of cognition may be substantially different from the layperson's. All three contribute to the expert's understanding of whether the child's actions could be considered willful. Magical thinking is a uniquely childlike inability to approach situations with an adult decision-making process. The child's wish becomes his or her reality. David thought that he would only scare his attacker, and that the whole incident would go away was a wish characteristic of young adolescents under stress. The child feels cornered and is incapable, because of immaturity, to think of any way out except to bargain. That overwhelms his or her moral values, and distorts things the child would otherwise know are true. In the same situation, an adult would be able to see a non-magical way out. At the moment when David was first grabbed by the older student, he was developmentally incapable of seeing how to get out. His magical thinking made him believe the only way out was nicking his attacker with a knife, even though before the fight he, A, thought hurting people was wrong and, B, knew stabbings usually cause injuries and have legal consequences. An adult, on the other hand, does not wish away the consequences.
I like that one. That's a cool one. About the fact that they really are still youngsters. Magical thinking. Hmm. Magical thinking. Growing environment. Second problem. Hmm. Well, it's a good idea, it's a good point, but it doesn't fit in my other ideas. That's the thing that I realize. No point confusing it with other things. You know what? It's taking me way too long to realize this. I probably edit this part off. Oh, will I? And maybe I'll leave that here. But I don't think I'm going to change it. I think I'll leave it like that. Sounds like a fateful decision. Probably is. Um, hmm. Let's see here. I'm curious to see what these other ones are, though. I don't feel like reading it, so I'll let her read it. I think she'll do it better anyway. Let's see here. And there's a chance it may change my mind.
Self-protection from the child development perspective is different from demonstrating self-defense in a legal context for adults. The egocentrism of adolescents exaggerates their sense of danger. Children's fears are typically overpowering and irrational. David's fear that the large football player was going to strangle him to death interfered with his thinking. For children of color, females and victims of physical or sexual abuse who have felt threatened before, self-protection is understandable even if, after the fact, an adult's assessment of the actual danger facing the child was that it was minimal. Each child has a unique personal reality defined in part by trauma. If the evaluator is interviewing a child who was previously victimized, his or her view of self-protection from harm in other situations as well as during the offense must be carefully explored. Evaluators must be cautious about determining that a child behaves in a predatory manner. The evaluator must look behind a horrifying crime to see if the child became aggressive in response to a threat, perhaps something that is a unique trigger for him or her, because it resembles past victimization. Understanding how that response cycle predetermines a child's behavior in certain situations is the key to identifying treatment to help the child think and react differently to threat in the future. Planning is weighed by the court as the determining element of premeditation by adults, but child development experts view planning differently. Children operate with much more limited choices than adults. Stress constricts their choices even more. Adolescents are developmentally limited in their ability to plan, because of their fluidity of time and structure. 5 minutes before his victim made racist comments and locked him in a hold, David's plan was to continue to hang out at the party with his friends. He did not plan to use his weapon, but he carried it because of his fears about walking across town at night after school affairs. Most adults would respect the boundary of a school party and not bring a weapon. Children often fail to plan or anticipate and get caught up in events that happen to them. Present-oriented thinking may be all a child is capable of. The prosecutor's argument, based on adult cognitive processes, was that carrying a weapon demonstrates intent to use it. In identical situations where adults see clear-cut choices with consequences, adolescents may believe they have only one option. The high incidence of adolescent suicides demonstrates this tendency to operate with an all-or-none mindset. Not seeing choices is developmental, and choice-making experience is more limited for youth with few opportunities and those with lower intelligence. Sensation-seeking or risk-taking behavior characteristic of adolescence is a component of choice-making. difficulty in managing impulses, or limited temperance, is a normal aspect of immaturity, which should be the context for the evaluator's presentation of a particular child's judgment or planning ability. Point 6. Furthermore, maturity of judgment varies in the developing child, depending on the demands of the situation. N.
Oh, I was wondering why she said N, because it happened to be the last thing there. But with that, I shall also end. Okay. Well, actually with this, some more of these pictures. Again, all of these are lifers due to the automaticness of the system, the mandatory sentencings, the mandatory adult juvenile court stuffs, and such likes, as well as people specifically choosing to put them there. Life without the possibility of parole. Each and every one of them. Except for maybe that first picture. If this is the thing I'm talking about, yes, it is. You figure in 20 years it'd probably change. Then what's with it without the possibility of parole thing? Don't just cop out on it. It's a mandatory sentence. No, it's not. It's actually specifically done in each case. It's just that it was chosen in a blanket sense. But each person it happens to, or concerning, it actually happens to. It's like a nuclear explosion that blows up a city. Any one person could have easily been elsewhere, so they all individually died, though they all died together. No reason to see it separate, or collectively in some type of blanket comment sense. Okay, and with that, adieu.